Welcome to Fret Reps. This is part 2 of the Triads series, Chord Construction. Now that you know the basic triad, the 1-3-5, it's important to understand chord construction before we continue on with this series. The prerequisites for this video are learn the scales without the guitar series, neck labels, and of course part 1 of this series. Watching this series out of order can be confusing if you're new to guitar. The theory of constructing a chord is ridiculously easy. But you have to know the scale that you're playing first. Let's look at the C major scale. Seeing the C major scale with the help of these neck labels makes understanding and constructing a chord easy. Some purists may say it's cheating to have those labels on the neck. Just because they had to learn the guitar without them doesn't mean it's cheating. After all, the piano has it organized this way. That would mean Mozart was cheating. Okay. If you're not using these labels, the learning scales without the guitar video can help you memorize the scales. Starting on A, like we always do, play every other note, going up 2 octaves. That's the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. These are all the available notes in the A minor chord. If you start on C, it's all the notes in a C major chord. No matter where you start, every other note in the scale are all the available notes in that chord. You don't have to play all these notes, just as many as you want. Most basic chords in Western music are just the first 3 or 4 of every other note. The 1st, 3rd, 5th, and/or 7th. Adding a 9th can pretty up a chord even more. But any more than that, you tend to lean more in the jazz arena. If you play a chord that's more than 3 notes, it's more than likely to be a bar chord. That is, unless you're playing the chords at the top of the neck utilizing open strings. Digging a little deeper into this every other note schematic, here is an interesting fact. If you look at every other note going up 2 octaves, 1 through 7 is in the 1st octave. The 8th is your 1st octave. But if you notice, the 8th is not in the sequence. The 9th through the 15th is in the next octave, and the 15th is the 2nd octave. So when playing every other note, you have to go 2 octaves before it lands back on the key note. If you look at it even deeper, 9 is actually the octave of the 2. The 9th, 11th, 13th, and 15th are the octaves of the 2nd, 4th, 6th, and the 1st octave. The same notes, just an octave above. Do you know what this means? This means every note in the scale are the notes in the chord. A scale is just a chord all laid out, 1 note at a time, combined in 1 octave. This is why if you're playing the right scale for the key you're in, any note you play will work. When soloing, it's best to hold, land, or stop on just one of the first 3 or 4 notes of the first half of the every other note sequence. This will give a strong, more satisfying feel. Now that you know that every other note in the scale is your option, how do you play it in a chord? Starting in C, looking at every other note on 1 string. Now play the 3rd and find it on the next string. Here's a hint, it's the major 3rd dyad, which you learned in part 1. Then if you match the 5th, it's adding a minor dyad, which in turn makes this a C major triad. Knowing triad shapes will do all the work for you. You can continue matching notes on more strings. Just remember, no matter where you are moving up or down, every other note is a good option for notes in the chord key that you're playing in. If you move up 1 note, it's more than likely to be a new chord, a key change. Now learning the triad shapes and being aware of the shape you're in will always give you options that sound good. As we move forward with this triad series, you should be aware that all the triads will be working with the every other note sequence exclusively.